Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. Da, 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 da. Also, a very beautiful mathematical object whose branches are structured almost like the neck of a guitar, you know. It's harmonic. Everything is, but there's something special. There's something special. There's something special about that wild carrot. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, just trying to get it right. My, one part of my, one part of my rational mind, one part of my rational mind really wants to clean all this up. But I know I'm not going to even get to what I put out here to get to. But these objects remind me of things, so later when I watch my own videos, I'll remember. Or if I need to reference them, it'll be here. And I didn't need to write it in words. It's there symbolically in objects. That comes in the whole idea of like using objects ritualistically. Oop. Make sure this is on. Yeah, using objects quote unquote ritualistically, but everything's a ritual. I get up in the morning, I stumble out of bed, I make a pot of coffee. That's a ritual. It's something I do every day to give me, of course, part of it's physical, but part of it's psychological. Same reason why I smoke. Not good, but it isn't the worst thing you can do, as it turns out. But even though I do the bad things, sometimes I still try to focus on something healthy. I'm reminding myself of King Kong eating his bamboo. Blech. So I watched my video. I realized this didn't show up very well yesterday. But the permanent marker part, which I just freehanded, like, this is like a super simple geometric object. It's barely anywhere away from anything, and yet it's like really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. When I was I think in fourth grade, I had it was in fourth grade was the first time I heard of infinity, and I was like, what? And I remember I just, as soon as nothing else in class meant anything, it's just I totally just the whole day just couldn't think about anything. And I got home and I was like, Mom, and of course I'm paraphrasing, but Mom, have you ever heard of infinity? And doing her dishes and stuff, which my mom always did mostly. She'd have to fight with us to get us to help her. And then of course there was always something to do, which my folks called dishpan diarrhea. Meant like, oh, I'll help you as soon as I go to the bathroom. or can I wait till the commercial to dry the dishes? But anyway, when I went to bed that night, I used to always pray when I was a kid every night. And it was a ritual. And I'd start off with the now I lay me down to sleep, but I never used the pray the Lord my soul to keep. I always hated that. I always just thought that was, or no, I did say pray the Lord my soul to keep. Now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. And then, yeah, the next line in the popular one is, if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I don't know, there's some other version of that I used to pray. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with it now because I've heard the other ones so much before. Now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. May angels guard me through the night and keep me safe till morning light, which is much more affirmative. Like, those are similar prayers. So, like, if you're into God or not into God, either way, like, look at them, like, linguistically, look at them, as an affirmation. And then that comes into the idea of angels, you know. But there's a lot of names for whatever that they is. And there are angels among us. But yeah, anyway, so when I went to bed, so I'd say that prayer, and then I'd say, God bless so and so, God bless so and so, and it was pretty much arranged in a hierarchy of who was closest to me and who I loved the most, and it was like very strict who I'd go through, like my immediate family, my extended family, and certain of my friends. Like there was like a set group that I always prayed for every night in a hierarchy, and then of course I didn't have the word hierarchy then, but looking back on it, it was like my favorite people. And then like any special people that touch me that day that I don't normally pray for, then whatever concerns I had for the day, I'd lay them out. Any interests I had, sometimes it was short, sometimes it was long. And then for years, like through junior high and high school, or bridging the gap between junior high and high school, I'd say my prayers, and then I'd listen to either, I'd listen to side B on my cassette tape of Megadeth Holy War's Punishment Due, or one of my favorite things to fall asleep to was Guns N' Roses side B of Appetite for Destruction. And I turned it down like really low on my little Magnavox tape player that I had just right there by my bed. You know. But anyway, sometimes my prayers will go on and on and on and on and on, and any interest or any thought I had, and this was a big night. I'll get to that, but I just remember being like, infinity, 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 infinity. And I was always thinking about God as a little kid, you know. And I was like, how could that be? How could that be? How could that be? And I remember just being like, just talking and asking and be like, like, well, what's beyond? What's beyond that? What's beyond that? And then that good voice inside your head will be, well, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back on it, I realized I was like astral dreaming or lucid dreaming. Or whatever you want to call it, and I didn't realize that because that's how I did things, when I was younger, and I didn't question it. And I do remember it was like me, and it was just like different types of black, and I'd get somewhere, and it would be like no, and then it would be no. Nope. And they were like color blacks, kind of like, well, I used to work at several different paint stores when I was younger, and it's like if you look at all the different colors of black, like there's a lot of them, I also had another experience one time to do with blackness, and but anyway, that was different, but I remember I was just like going through, going through, going through, going through, going through, going through, and it went on all night. And the only reason I know that is because when I woke up, I had still slept, but like it was one complete thought. And at the end of it, I was in this place, right? Like I was in, like picture something that looked quite a bit like this, except a little bit more, and I was in the middle of it. And it was all black, but different varieties of black, bright blacks, if that even makes sense. And there were what looked like men there, muscular shapes, like working. And just realized something. But right before I woke up, it's like I zoomed all the way out, and it was this huge circle with more or less like this shape all over, all inside of it. And I remember that for some reason, like as I woke up, like out of the twilight, out of like it's like I understood infinity. And I remember being so excited, like, and and I remember like trying to rush downstairs, and by the time I was halfway down the stairs, I remember because I was like practically running down the stairs, like, Mom, 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 guess what? You know, I wanted to tell my mom that I figured out infinity, and not to say that I did, but oh, it's so hard to put this shit into words. But that also comes back to when I was talking about Michelangelo's painting, like, and in the full circle picture of this that I showed the other day, where got to be adult, the head codes everywhere, the little baby Jesus balls and testicles look like the three circles, except they're kissing circles, but so if you picture that, you know, this is a close-up of that circular painting. If you picture that scale replicated around that entire circle, that's what it looked like. And I remember just zooming out of it in my mind and being like, boing. Doesn't mean I understand it, but I saw it. And this, of course, we're talking about yeah, I'm wearing the same pants as yesterday and the same socks. I did change my shirt, my t-shirt. I'll probably change my socks and underwear tomorrow. The pants I'll wear all week. They used to do that shit for, you know, they did that shit for thousands of years. People have it way worse than that. And that's what I'm trying to recognize, and that's what I'm trying to do. Because as much as like hygiene is important and what we put in our bodies is important, more important than outside, but then like that other thing, you know, like I don't want to do this. I'm totally embarrassed doing this. But there's something bigger than me saying, you're doing this. And I've exposed myself in basically mostly only stupid ways. And that whole game theory thing where like 90% of everything is wrong and only like 10%, the average person's only right 10% of the time. But I feel like I feel like this with this particular project I'm working on. I feel like I might be up in the 12 to 15% correct area, um, which is which sounds only a little bit better if you're talking about the full 100%, which would be God eternal. But if you're just talking about from my perspective as that normally 10%, somewhere between 12 and 15% is a 20 to 50% improvement, which is huge.
That was easy.
So I started with the Carrot Top Christmas tree. And it's funny too that they call redheaded people carrot tops, or the comedian Carrot Top's a carrot top, but the red on his head is the bottom. You know, the carrot top is green first year. The carrot top second year is white with a red dot. So there's a lot of different carrot tops. Some people say red on the head like the dick on the dog. Daucus. What's up, Doc? I thought about this all day, so it's hard now to boil down to what I'm actually going to say. And I know that I couldn't take the time because I could take years trying to say the perfect thing. But I'll never get there. I'll never do anything. And there's like so many interesting stories and histories and conspiracies and tales and fables and like maths and this and that and so many like things to achieve and figure out and find out, or but but the conspiracy of conspiracies, right? The truth, that one principle. Like imagine if we were all united. You know, like the Worthian hypothesis, which to my mind has been validated, about how, language affects the way you actually interpret reality. Of course it does. But I guess when it first came out, it was ridiculed, it was poo pooed, pushed aside, you know. But then there's that story of that people, I don't know what people it is, but I heard about it on NPR, on Radiolab, and I heard about it a lot in an audiobook, a Fritjof, well, it wasn't a Fritjof Capra audiobook, the Patterning Instinct, where Fritjof Capra is either mentioned or referenced. Um, but they talk about this tribe too, where like they're always, everything they say when they greet each other like has some reference to their position, their location, their direction, as it corresponds to the sun. And on the Radiolab version of this story, this researcher studied them long enough till she understood what they were saying, and she said that basically what happened was it was almost like in your mind or in your mind's eye, you developed almost like a GPS and you could like see in your mind where you were, and that was like built into the language itself. Now, if I were a linguist, if I were a scientist, if I were a seeker, like, yeah, actually now I'm asking myself, why haven't I tried to learn this language? Figure out exactly what it is, because that seems really amazing. And so don't want to lose sight where this all started. St. Agnes. St. Agnes, Dorothy, Tom, John, Judas, Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion, Tin Man. Oops. Somewhere over the rainbow. The rainbow, all of humanity, hue. The ultraviolet. The infrared. Two different ways of peering through the veil. But if you flip them around, it's four. I barely touched on that. I did a pretty good job with the ultraviolet. There's three other ways. I think I've only experienced two of them, as it refers to those two colors. And the veil is Maya, illusion. The opposite side of the ultraviolet's the deep purple. This one you see with your eyes open. The deep purple you see with your eyes closed. The infrared, this one you see in the light with your eyes open. This one you see in the shadows with your eyes open. And it's different. I'm not a master, I don't know this, I'm not into magic or nothing. I've just always wanted to know the truth. And so like I'd read this, I'd read that, I'd see this, I'd see that, I'd think this, I'd think that. And I'm not there yet, you know? But I've passed a couple thresholds. I don't know if I'll get there. But I finally realized we're all going to get there. But I finally realized it's less important to make sure that I get there than it is to make sure that we get there. It's like the Olympic torch. It travels around the world like the nomads. There are amazing Olympian athletes. Amazing. Which also comes up into the idea of Save Agnes. How many Marys have we lost? You know, I used to watch Alex Jones a lot way back in when he first came out. Especially in 2003 up to off and on, but in big chunks for 10 years. But anyway, one of the big quotes that anybody into the conspiracy stuff of that ilk would recognize, specifically prior to, basically once Rand Paul became a senator, roughly is about when, I was a Ron Paul libertarian. But what I liked about him wasn't as much all the other stuff. What I liked about Ron Paul was the same thing that I liked about Cornel West, where they spoke of tolerance being important. But yeah, one of Alex Jones's most famous quotes is the answer to 1776 is, or the answer to 1984 is 1776. I guess you'll have to look that up. I don't want to go into that right now, but that whole idea would be like George Orwell, 1984. But the save Agnes, how many Marys have we lost? Answer to that is Mary Lou Retton. You know, and not just that we could all be gymnastics, even though maybe we could, or gymnasts, but how brilliant young people are, how powerful small people are, and how powerful women are. You know, and I don't mean this about her. I know she's a person out there in the world and everything. But her or someone like her or some other girl. Of course, she was a girl then, you know. And Dorothy represents a girl, but of course it was a woman playing a girl. So we have to be adult about watching that movie while still remaining a child at heart. Which is, I mean, that's the tough job of Tough Tom. Tom's got to be strong enough to push away them demons. It's like that Stone character in Never-Ending Story. And this is a never-ending story. It's like that Stone, you know, oh, such strong hands, you know. But they're gentle. Like Dick Gregory when he says he's like the tortoise, strong on the outside, soft on the inside, you know. And that's our job. I know I've already like abandoned several trains of thought. The brotherly love, the sisterly love, seeing what others don't see. Because I do think it's a shame. There's only been I've been pretty close with, I guess, a lot of dudes, and every male relationship is different. I just mean friends over the years, growing up and stuff, you know. And every male relationship is different, and they all have their like benefits and drawbacks, so to speak. But I do remember a couple times where, you know, when I associate love with like love for my parents, love for my family, love for, and especially as an adult for the last 20 years, you know, I've associated it with wanting a woman, you know, wanting to find love in a woman. Even though like I didn't necessarily want to get married or this or that, it's just wanting to feel connected, wanting to have a friend who wasn't a dude. But there were, you know, a few guys I met just over the years, and not even my closest friends, who it's like there was some special twinkle in their eye, and I just thought to myself, man, I love this guy. And like, it wasn't gay. Like I said, I'm pretty well straight. But it's like these dudes at the end of The Wizard of Oz. All three of them plus Dorothy and Toto and Galinda and that whole community, man. They were experiencing love. Not that it has to be like that or crying, you know, but when you shed that skin, when all those scales fall down, it's just like, yeah, man, I'm not there at all. In fact, I'm in like a personal prison. Like I said, I don't talk this way. But I'm hoping that by like putting myself out there, even if no one ever watches this, just by creating the possibility, I'm hoping that I'm creating the avenue that maybe someday when I walk out my front door in the morning, I can be that. And I can see that twinkle in everybody's eye, including my own. I'm really hard on myself. I kind of deserve it, you know. But it's hard to draw that line, and it's hard to draw the line between the because we have our conscious, what we think with our words, then we have our subconscious, but then we also have our superconscious. And people always talk about like the conscious versus the unconscious, but that's just two things. There's the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. Never mind the different states of consciousness. Never mind other ways to talk about it, but there's definitely that. And like I want so bad to just burn away that subconscious and have it all be conscious, superconscious. But then you're in the realms of angels and masters and gods and demigods or whatever. Angels and demons, you know. Then you're playing in that arena. And then that comes to the whole idea too of like I've never really been into like really studying like even like magic or tarot or this or that or whatever, even though I know like their deep systems and so on. And definitely not like Satanism or anything like that. Though I did like some bands that were like satanic, quote unquote, you know. But I was thinking about it today, like, because we think of like the Baphomet, you know, the pentagram, which it's a shame that they put those. Well, there are great images like Glinda the Good Witch with her 5-pointed star, or our Christmas tree. And then there's the bad images of the, you know, satanic orgy, sin for salvation, you know, always with a goat. And it's kind of mean to goats to do that to goats and make goats associated with that, because goats are just like pretty cute, especially when they're babies and they have those little midget goats that are like fucking super cute, and they're just like, of course in the wild they're also badasses, you know. And mountain goats, things they can do with their little feet and everything. But if I were a goat, I mentioned it before, like one time my car broke down and I was in a very distraught place. And I'd worked all day. It was like, I think about 7:45. It was somewhere between 7 and 8 at night when I started walking. And I was just going to walk to the store to call my folks or my boss. Be like, hey, can I get a ride? You know. I was like, no, I'm going to keep walking. No, I'm going to keep, and then I knew that there was another store, you know, a ways down. I was like, no, I'm going to keep walking. I'm going to keep walking. And this was after working what was for me kind of a long day. And as it turned out, I walked from like, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock at night until 9 something in the morning. Thought I was going to die. It was one of the hardest things I ever did because I'm not in that kind of shape. And it was already a long day. And I'd bought some cat food. I was in my painter shorts and a t-shirt. I was carrying bags of water I bought on the way. And I was like, I had a couple cans of cat food because I knew my cat at the time needed cat food. And also I thought, well, if I meet a wild animal on the way, I can at least throw him a can of cat food. It might give me a minute, but then on the well before I was halfway home, I was like, I would be dead. You know, I just, but it was a, it was just something I had to do. But anyway, I walked past this goat farm, you know, and I just remember being like, it's weird when you walk past a place that you normally drive past. Like that whole road, I've driven past all of it a gazillion times, but almost none of it had I ever walked past. And it's so different, especially in the middle of the night. It was like 90, it was one of those nights where it was in the middle of summer, it was like 90 degrees, like in the middle of the night, you know, and really still, except but the bugs and everything. But walked past this goat farm, and I just remember thinking, like, man, they're all in this pen. It's just like, fuck, what a miserable life, you know. So if I were a goat, and especially in a place where they, I guess we mostly, you know, get the goat milk around here, but where they butcher goats. If I were a goat, and that was the environment that I lived in, that badass motherfucking Baphomet god, that would be my god then, you know. I'd be like, we're getting slaughtered left and right here. We could use a little help. You know, badass, could you come down and, you know, smite my enemy? I could understand where a goat would think that if they thought like we do and saw the situation. There probably are some goats. Just like people, right? Gandhi was a remarkable person, right? Martin Luther King Jr. was a remarkable person. Harriet Tubman was a remarkable person. And but not everyone was like that. So we can imagine with animals. And yeah, I mean there's enchanted animals. There's enlightened animals. There are animals smarter than I am. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Yeah, this isn't where I wanted to go at all today with this. I was going to talk about really wanted to talk about Wild Carrot today and about whoever they are. The conspiracies. The greatest story never told. I'm not even saying I'm trying to tell it. I'm trying to get to the place where I can tell it. I'm not even telling it like a story. When people realize this story, and it has to be written, and it might not be by me. You know, maybe the whole reason I'm doing this is because one day, 50 years from now, someone's going to watch something I did, and that's going to like make some connection in their mind, and they're going to make the story. That might be the whole purpose for my life. So that one person one day watches one video I make, and it makes one connection that unlocks the door to this whole thing. They put it out, give it to the world, and the world goes, oh, yeah! Except there's a lot of hurt. It's not just that, you know. If we quote unquote fixed all the problems that we're aware of now, there'd still be challenges. There'd still be problems, but it would be at a higher level. It's just like Dorothy when she's first this triangle and this tetrahedron. But when she comes back, she's a bigger triangle and a bigger tetrahedron. Completely proportioned, same person. But her heart grew 3 sizes that day. it's just there are things that we could do now, but we have to choose it. Like there's some things we can't legislate, right? Prohibition didn't work, right? Making drugs illegal didn't work. Making what's it called when you cheat on your husband or wife? What's that called? Infidelity. I mean that was illegal. That didn't work. Which comes back into another part of the wild carrot. One of the things, the wild carrot, yeah, this is a good point. I did want to talk about this. One of the things about the wild carrot is that if you eat the seeds, it acts as a birth control. It prevents people from getting conceived, and I think it can also be like an abortive measure. Which, in one side, on the quote unquote dark side, and it could be either, if there's two dark sides, it could be used on either dark side. But like for like old school orgies, sex magic, all that kind of stuff, wild carrot seeds could be used as an abortive measure, so you could get your rocks off, not have to worry about pregnancy. But on the other side of it, from the good women who held knowledge in days past, when so-and-so, little Agnes, was raped by her uncle, her dad, some dude down the road, some vagrant, whoever. Back in the days when the rapist the raper got murdered once they became pregnant just for being impure and defiled, the good women could say, here you go, put the whole thing to rest. Not that those good women even wanted to get rid of that child in the womb, but they wanted to save this child. So that's one thing about the wild carrot. Another thing, I mean, it just goes on and on. It's a remarkable plant, a remarkable symbol. Which comes up to the whole idea of like the legalization of abortion, too. And to my mind, there's one reason. You know, I've been on every side of that. When I was younger, I was like, nope. Just because like, I never knew my dad, and I was under the impression that he didn't want me. I thought he might want to have abortion. So when I heard abortion, I thought, you're gonna kill me. You wanted to kill me. My dad wanted to kill me. That's my biological dad. That's what I would think. Not that that's right, but that's what I would think. So that I was always on that side. Plus the whole God thing and the God narrative and so on. And plus it makes sense, man. It all makes sense, which is weird. Because the opposition makes sense too. And then I've also been on the side of, well, look, I'm a dude. It's really just up to the women, so on. But the biggest thing to me, I think, that makes the most sense of why it's legal and why it has to be legal is because it saves young women from getting murdered. Period. Because Daddy Warbucks, I shouldn't say that, he was a good guy. But, some dude rapes some young girl, doesn't want his wife to find out, kills her. How many times has that happened through history? Um, yeah, this isn't all where I wanted to go with this today, but so that's that. See where I'm at for time. Alright, I got a few minutes left. Let's see, Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace. King James. Whoops, how's the J go? Call. Cage. Kale. Quail. Remember when Dan Quayle misspelled potato? Queen Anne was from the House of Stuart. So that Stuart. Stuart. Stew. Art. The art of cooking. The joy of cooking. In like old school recipes that witches had to hide because all the brutal, tough assholes didn't want knowledgeable people giving healthy herbs to cure people. It's just, you can't believe this shit, you know? People who pick herbs are, you know, instead of being called scientists and healers and being loved, we're persecuted. It's crazy. But yeah, in like boiling can be a like underground reference to aerobic fermentation, and baking can be a underground reference to anaerobic fermentation. So essentially, like beer and pickles. To boil it down, simple. Beer and pickles can be a reference. Beer would be boiling. Pickling would be um, anaerobic. Guess I'll leave it at that. I really wanted to do other stuff, but maybe I touched on some other things that I won't have to get to later, and I can get to what I wanted to get to some other time. There's no way to wrap everything into one thing, but I do hope someday to make a concise account of whatever this series of stories is in my mind. But at the very least, this is a way of taking notes for myself And you never know what people are gonna like, because I've liked some really weird stuff. So maybe someone would like this. I don't know. Or it could all get erased tomorrow and deleted by YouTube, and then I'd at least have gone through the experience of cultivating my will to say, you know what, I'm gonna put myself out there, in favor of the truth, and in favor of what's good in all of us. And I'm gonna bet on all of you. I want what's good for me too. Of course I do. And the selfish part of me is like, fuck everybody else. But we only all get there together.